I've been lucky enough to drive lots of cool cars, but I've never driven a Mark IV Toyota Supra, and that's what we're going to find out in today's video. I'm back down here at VG Performance Cars, who specialise in JDM, highly modified tuned cars, as well as supercars and many other bits, and they have chucked me the keys to this, a 2JZ with a manual gearbox that's been slightly tuned, finishing this lovely purple, to see what it's all about. You know how it goes, we're going to go out for a drive, and I'm going to tell you what it's like. So as I'm sure most of you know, you could do 100 zillion things to a Toyota Supra. You can make it run at 1,000 horsepower, you can turn it into a drag car, you can turn it into a track car in some way. But this one has got what we all know, BPU, bolt-on options and mods. You guys out there might be thinking, what the hell is BPU? Well, it stands for Basic Performance Upgrades. With a few basic modifications, you can get this cranking up from the gentleman's agreement in the mid-90s. In Japan, Supras, GTRs and other Japanese performance cars were restricted to 276 horsepower. With the Supra, it had a boost restrictor. If you take that away, add a downpipe and a boost controller, you can get this running up to 450 horsepower. This one is running 420 horsepower. Doesn't sound like much, but with a manual gearbox, it should be interesting to drive. But let's talk about the exterior. At the front, we've got a Duluck upgraded front bumper, bonnet, we've got the rotor wheels, we've got the Duluck side skirts. At the back, we've got the Grams rear bumper, we've got an upgraded rear spoiler, and the colour is finished in this lovely metallic purple. Inside, we've got the Recaro bucket seats. Yeah, I think from the exterior, it looks safe, it looks cool. I do like the way it looks. I mean, look at that. That is what you call an arse, a fat arse. But I want to know what it's like to drive. Goes all right. Dude, is that a Supra? It's that infamous line. I mean, who doesn't like a Supra? Everybody likes a Supra. Obviously, it was Brian's car, his 10-second car in the first Fast and Furious movie. That one was a T-top. They're rare as rocking horse. Them ones are. So, a Supra, twin turbocharged, 420 horsepower, coilover suspension, Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tyres, on a country B road. Well, for starters, inside, well, interiors have moved on, haven't they? It's very much the 90s in here, in a cool way, in a cool way. It's quite large, you know, narrowing it down B roads is interesting to say the least. It's sitting a tad low, so you do have to watch out for the certain hump or dip or crevice, but listen to that. Yeah, it's quite cool. 2JZ in its lightest form at 420 horsepower, and it's got a 6-speed manual gearbox, which we all know is more desirable. As you know from the exterior, I think it looks quite nice. Finished in this lovely purple, fresh paint job. It's running Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tyres all round, and when I open it up in second gear, it is a bit wet. It goes all right. Pulls hard and strong all the way to 7,000 RPM. There is a degree of turbo lag, but of course it will be. Obviously there's 1,000 horsepower Supras, 800 horsepower Supras, single turbo, so it's interesting to try a twin turbo, and I suppose it's the best way of starting out in a Supra. Gear shift feels nice, it's a Velside gear knob. Feels like the row of throw is standard and stock. Slightly notchy, but it's pretty alright. Seating position, these Recaro seats. Seating position. Seating position, these Recaro seats hug you in all the right areas. Inside, it's, you know, the 90s, isn't it? You know, you've got plastic everywhere, you've got a big rev gauge in front of you, a bit like a Porsche 911, you've got a boost gauge on the right. Though this is a modified car, there isn't any like other boost gauges that you'd find up here on the A-pillar. Feels very much like a GT car, how Toyota intended it to be. This straight six 2JZ 3-litre motor. This doesn't have the variable valve timing, but if you wind it up and keep it on boost, get it past 5,000 RPM, and she goes, the old girl. She goes indeed. What you got to be careful though is in the wet, you don't want to be at partial throttle, because when the boost does come in, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, through here. This is more of a childhood car to drive. How does it work from a review point of view? Well, she's an old girl, isn't she, the Supra? So it's more of a vibe car, very much like the Nissan Skyline i32 that some of you may or may not have seen a few months back. If you haven't seen it, go check it out somewhere out there. Steering, it's quite fluid, it's got a slow rack, but the weighting's on the light side, but it's got a degree of feedback. What's interesting is how you can sort of just hustle the Supra along a B road. It's not crazy sporty, it sort of floats along. And you've got that 2JZ to accompany with you. But you know what? On a day like today in the autumn, where it's a bit wet, there's a couple of leaves floating around, it's not that intimidating to drive. 420 horsepower, the performance is right there. It's the power delivery that makes the Supra so exciting. It's the way it comes in on song. It still boosts quite hard for a twin turbocharged motor. It's not unlike a single turbo where you get nothing, and then all of a sudden, zoof, you're off. You still get that in this, but it's a nice blend. The way it sort of just blends its power in is quite nice. It can catch you out at tighter corners, but it's all right. It's not too shabby. In fact, let me come to a stop and just see what this Supra is like when you pull away from it. First gear, we'll get to 3,000 RPM and yeah. You know, it's a mild day. As you go faster, the more cold air fed into that intake, it seems to boost even harder and harder and harder. It's a lovely surge of power, actually. But yeah, the roads are drying up a little bit, and it's an enjoyable experience, and immediately everyone looks at you because you're in a Supra. It's every boy's favourite car, isn't it? Oh yeah. There are a couple of bits I would do, but this is what makes the Supra interesting. I, for one, like track driving, so I would do a couple of bits to the chassis just to add a little bit more life to it. It does float into corners, it's still competent for its age. It's not a B-road basher. You know, you don't really want to be chucking it left, right. You could tell that this car would get a tad bit upset. It's the straight line performance and the way it looks is what people are going to find interesting about the Supra. From what a few people have told me, and my mate Nino here, who's helping me film today, he's saying that for this particular Supra, and he's driven a few and knows a lot more about Supras than I do, he reckons this is pretty good to drive. and it's quite competent. But the 2JZ engine, I'm an NA guy. I like naturally aspirating, high revving motors, but there's no denying how charismatic this motor is. So they're my thoughts of the Supra. The Supra isn't the sports car that I thought it would be. Having said that, it hasn't disappointed me either. It's a different sort of driving, and like I said to you earlier, depending on how you want to mod this car, because the Supra is interchangeable for all sorts, in terms of bumpers, in terms of power outputs, in terms of turbochargers, in terms of setup. So it's each to their own with the Supra. You guys might know Matt Farah, the smoking tyre. He's driven like 1,000 horsepower Supra, and he did that infamous line, you know, 1,000 horsepower Supra sucks as a street car.
I've driven a 1,000 horsepower Supra. It sucks as a street car.
He reckons that BPU performance upgrades is where the Supra should be. I mean, 420 horsepower, it's a nice bit of power as well too. Usable, I like that word, usable power. And you can use a lot of the power a lot of the time. It still goes well. I have no doubt that this car would stay up with an F87 BMW M2 competition. I really think it would. If the M2 competition was a manual, of course. So from a performance aspect and the motor, it goes very well. I don't know what I thought in my head. I thought this might have been, you know, a bit of a widowmaker, especially with the turbo setup, the way it would cut in, the fact that it was raining, but no. These Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tyres have really transformed the car. Well, Michelin Pilot Sport 4's transformed pretty much everything in that matter. But I like it. I love these quirky dial readouts. I love how, you know, this part of the center console, the air vents, your radio is all focused to the driver. There is seats in the back. God knows who you're going to put in there. I don't know. But still, it's cool. It's a different sort of vibe. The sort of person that would buy a Supra is obviously going to be a Supra enthusiast. And these cars have shot up in money, especially in the last 10 years. They've gone 3-4 times that much, depending on the specification, mileage, whether it's a T-top or not. And to the right person, it's worth every penny. I, for one, like the Supra. The Supra is cool. It goes well. I'd like to drive different other versions of the Supra, see what it's all about. Anyway, I think that concludes everything on the 2JZ Gen 4 Toyota Supra. This one is for sale at VG Performance Cars. Shout out to them, go check them out. If you like content like this, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, because it will help out in that matter. And if you're an owner out there and you've got something cool, well, drop me an email on Instagram, and yeah, that will all be down there at the bottom. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'm just going to spend the rest of my Saturday afternoon spanking a Supra. So yeah, until next time, folks, see you later.